Hey everybody, Quantum here, and it's been a while since we last did a meta report, but we have the first results from the release weekend of AZURITE to see what decks are actually making waves in the tournament scene. We had a couple of decently sized events, both in North America and in Europe, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at a couple of these. Keep note that some of these events happening over the weekend were still like the old meta, so like these SGC Con events were still set 5. The first major one that was occurring over the weekend is this Southside Gaming 71 player event in the US. We have an Amethyst Steel deck taking first place with a record of 8-1-1, and surprisingly beating out, I guess, you know, if it was aggro focused, beating out Red Blue, which in my opinion is the best deck in the format, at least right now, or on paper in theory. And interesting to see that a Ruby Amber aggro deck, and I just want to quickly click on this because, again, if you watch my video on Ruby Amber, I kind of outlined that this deck should be a threat in the meta. I'm glad to see it performing, almost making it to the finals, coming in third place here. But the aggro focused strategy, utilizing things like that Simba shift line, using the just-in-times with the Kitas, just like we showcased in our video. So if you want to see how this deck performed, at least from my perspective, I do have some gameplay around that. It can win by like turn 4, which is crazy. The super goof, right, coming in to clutch out wins, etc. So this list is not the same as mine. I don't think I played the Vanellope, but just good additional board stabilization cards, which is very interesting. But yeah, really nice to see this. I do think Just in Time is one of those cards that are really slept on right now in Amber for aggro decks, because you can facilitate out like a couple of really powerful cards, and still facilitating out a Rapunzel is very, very strong. But yeah, interesting to see that list coming in third place. We take a look at the Ruby Sapphire list here. Looks pretty standard. Interesting to see one random Queen of Hearts. I've tested builds with up to 4 of this because, you know, we really only care about surviving aggro. And once you survive the aggro early game, Red Blue should just close the game out very, very comfortably. But interesting to see them still on the Gramatalas. I thought this card would probably be cut on 2 Sharks and 1 Medusa. So, Medusa still showing that it has some relevance. 3 Sisu, only 2 Be Prepared, so for your board control cards. Interesting to see triple Maleficent, really expecting to get to that top end. And you definitely can get there with a deck like this, because you have the T-Bows for ramp. You obviously have the new AZURITE, which is, arguably one of the best cards in the set. Still playing How Far I'll Go. 3 Fishbones and 1 Stone Dragon instead of the 4 Fishbones. And do you play a critical mass of characters, 30 characters, half your deck out of 60 card deck? I'd say that's reasonable to start getting some utility off of the Stone Dragon. Again, just a one of, so do you see it? Probably not in most matchups. But yeah, interesting to see the spread of the actions here. If we take a look, Hideaway, Brawl, Visions of the Future, and then Songs, Let It Go, How Far I'll Go, Be Prepared. So Maui Shark getting some utility. What's interesting to note here in this list is they're not playing any Vitalosphere, which is one of the ways that you want to give your Maui Shark rush. So they're just depending on, I drop this Maui Shark and just hope you exert something, because this color pairing doesn't have stuff to exert either. So Maui Shark comes down and it's kind of like, exert at your own risk, because I might get back, one of 19 different actions and or songs. So interesting list there. And then the winning list was this, which is very surprising, because you see Tinkerbell 7-drop, which I would not have expected to be very good. If anyone in the comment section below can let me know what specifically this card does. I mean, it's a big evasive threat that does shift for 5, which is nice, and obviously you have big Tinkerbell. And this was a deck list that I put together, but I never posted a video about. Not this exact list, but I one of the reasons why Amethyst Steel mid-range got better is because you have they're not playing the small Tinkerbell. Oh yeah, they are playing it. Why don't I see it on the picture here? Oh, here it is. Yeah, this Tinkerbell, which is basically a Minnie Mouse clone, but it's better because the name Tinkerbell, when it pairs with Amethyst Steel, you can shift. You can drop this on 3, and if you don't have the big Tinkerbell, that's fine. This is still a 2-quester, but if you do have the big Tinkerbell, right, we know how threatening and set 1, you know, the 3 cost Tinkerbell into shift 4 Tinkerbell is. And this is bringing back Grab Your Swords into the meta, because now that you have these shift lines where you can come in, deal 1 damage to everything, and then clear board by singing Grab Your Swords, dealing a total of 3 damage to everything, this is actually huge. It's the same reason why Grab Your Swords is making its way back into Sapphire Steel, because of the Jim Hawkins shift line. Jim Hawkins comes in on the shift, deals 1 damage to one thing, but then you can sing Grab Your Swords, dealing 3 damage to one thing, 2 damage to everything else. Still really relevant. So Amethyst Steel, you can see here 3 Genie, only 1 Rabbit. So Genie is displacing the Rabbit use. 2 Beast, Tragic Hero, 2 Bell, but you're also playing the Blue Fairy. So this might be like some of the synergy that you're seeing here with like some of these evasive, or not evasive, Floodborns. Interesting to see Robin Hood still being used. And what's interesting, in my opinion, the most interesting thing about this list, no Calhoons. Because they're on a Blue Fairy list, it looks like they'd rather play like Aladdin and obviously just additional Floodborn targets so that they can trigger the Blue Fairy. So no Calhoun in this one, winning list. Yeah, this Tinkerbell comes down. I guess it's just a big body, hard to deal with potentially, right? Questing for 2. Can shift even, right? But I mean, this quests for 2 and so does a little Tinkerbell. So really the only benefit you're getting off of this big Tinkerbell is it doesn't get brawled and little C-suit and big C-suit and stuff, which is still really relevant, right? I mean, you saw it beat red blue in the finals. So very interesting to see. We'll take a look at the top 4. No surprise here, Go-Go making its way into basically every Emerald list that you will probably see from now on. Definitely a staple card. But honestly, aside from that, I wouldn't expect there to be any really new additions to Emerald Steel. The deck is still solid, but other decks definitely got better, whereas this one was still very good, and it still will be very good, but it really only got Go-Go. And, you know, to be honest, Go-Go might be all it needs to clutch out games and stay relevant in the meta. I am interested to see Brendan DeCanio's list because, you know, he's a very, very good player. Coming in top 8, on the Calhouns in Amber Steel, which is very interesting here, Cinderella, Daisy Duck, and Happy. So this is some interesting tech because we talked about this in the previous set. This location, Seven Dwarves Mine, is a very powerful location because if you move a knight character, you just deal 2 damage, and if you move a non-knight, you still are able to deal 1 damage, and it's a passive lore gain as well. 6 toughness, only costs 2. It is inkable, but it does cost 2 to move. The thing is, you play a total of 8 knights because you're playing 4 Doc and 4 Happy. So you can move these cards, you know, and Happy only costs 1, so a total of 3 to play him and move him, and then you just deal 2 damage to something. Very, very strong. And then even though these cards are relatively weak, with the addition of the new Pluto being a 5/5 bodyguard, your opponent has to basically lose a card in order to reduce this card's strength down to 1 so that they can run in another threat and take it out, which means that they're wasting 2 resources in that turn to take out the Pluto, one of which gets banished, right? Because likely Pluto takes it out with the 5 strength that it has before it takes damage. So a very interesting and strong list. And what's even crazier is, like, you know, Pluto can also be a challenger. You can challenge into something, take the damage, Rapunzel heal it. Just like with Lawrence, right? This overstated body that comes in, takes damage, Rapunzel heal it. So really nice synergy with this deck. Obviously very aggro focused. Look at all the 1 and 2 drops here. And then a couple of 3 drops. And yeah, just capping out at the 4 drop. So very, very aggro oriented list. Yeah, just aims to get under all the control decks. I know I've watched a couple of DeCanio's videos. He's mentioned how he's hoping that a lot of decks can get under the Sapphire control decks, and it looks like he has a build that can potentially do it. And then we've got Ruby Amethyst. So, you know, really diverse top 8 here. Ruby Amethyst looking like, you know, the deck of set 3, 4, 5 looks exactly the same. Small additions here and there. Reintroduction of Lady Tremaine, Elsa at 4. And then, of course, the new Genie. Interesting to see 4 Genie and 4 Rabbit. You know, this man is drawing all the cards in the game, which is quite interesting. But yeah, capping out at 6. You're seeing these decks that aren't ramp decks basically trying to keep their cost curve very low and manageable. They're not really exceeding past 5 or 6, and mostly, and then, you know, in DeCanio's case, 4. So very, very interesting. Blue Steel. Yep, the Jim Hawkins shift line, very strong. I like this new Ralph, but again, it might be too slow. The thing about the Ralph is it gives you good control options into opposing locations and items. The tool lore that you get from banishing an opponent's location or item is nice, but just the fact that you can deal with one of their locations or items is very, very nice on a character. But yeah, very interesting list here. Pluto making its way in, 3 Cogsworth, 2 Aerial, and 1 random Hades, 3 grab your swords. So like I said, this Jim Hawkins shift line facilitates the use of grab your swords once again. Standard item package. The Fire the Cannons is also back into the meta with blue steel. For the simple, only 2 Azurite Sea though. That's very interesting. And no Tipo. So like, what are you really putting into the Inkwell with Peekly? This is a very interesting list. I guess if your Chicha is now vulnerable, you can Peekly it or something. But the relevant thing I was going to say with Fire the Cannons, it's a good card still. Obviously, you can ink it, but this person's not playing Tipo. They are playing Fishbone. But one of the nice interactions is if you sail on turn 2 and then you ink, you have 1 ink available, which you can play a Fortisphere, a Popsicle, or you can Fire the Cannons an early game threat, right? So that's one of the reasons why Fire the Cannons is now preferred in this build over like Baboons and stuff, which we've seen be played in the past. So very interesting stuff there. But yeah, that is the first event. The next one I want to take a look at because it is kind of unique. You didn't see Emerald Amethyst represented at all, but Artabax took it with a 9-0 at Battle Bear. His list is definitely very interesting. I think this is more of the player over the deck, but Emerald Amethyst is still a threat, performing very well. Only 2 followers and 4 Diablos, which I was really surprised with. I do think that followers is the better card, but just like I've been talking about in my previous videos, guys, the crab. Look, he's on 4 crab. I was talking about being on 3 crab because I'm like, the crab value is crazy, and you get insane value off of it with Diablo. So here it looks like he's really utilizing that package. Not playing the Cusco though, but I don't think you need to. Like the crab is the crab stocks are up, guys. I'm telling you, crab is insane right now. And yeah, this interaction here between Diablo and crab, I think is just really, really nice. 4 Merfolk, so still on those aggro threats along with the Bonsai as well. Yeah, this is interesting. What I would say is, I know obviously like the Steel Calhoun checks Emerald Amethyst quite hard, right? Like it literally takes out every single one of your cards in the early game. Like it takes out literally everything except for this evasive threat as a 1 of Peter Pan Shadowfinder. But look at this, and this Genie. It takes out the goat. It literally takes out everything except for Elsa, which it basically takes out everything except for your evasive threats. Like Calhoun deals with this whole board, of which most of it doesn't even trade out to Calhoun, right? Like the Fox will trade it out, the Merlin, the Bonsai will trade it out. But yeah, 1 of Ursula, 2 of Clarabelle, 4 of the Elsa. This is to me looks like a control list more than like it's a control list disguised as an aggro list, right? Because between the Elsa and the Crab, you're getting a lot of let me control the board state while I'm still able to put on aggro threats. So I think that's why this deck works. 4 of the Go-Go, which is very interesting. I don't think this is the card you want to play on 2 ever. You want to close the game out with it. So 4 is a very interesting choice. But I guess it's not bad to play on 2. I guess he's got what? Yeah, you definitely want to play Bonsai on 2. I think even Ursula Deceiver would be better on 2 than the Go-Go, but this is evasive still, so that's interesting. The 1 of Gazelle, I like Gazelle because even in my budget lists of Emerald, I was playing Tinkerbell, the 4-cost inkable evasive 2/3 in Emerald, for the simple fact that it gives one of your other cards evasive only for that turn, but that's all you need for your card to be able to take out an opposing Diablo. So you play that Tinkerbell, it does come down on 4, so it's like pretty late, but then you can give anything that has 2 strength evasive so it can take out Diablo. This card does it cheaper, and it does it until the start of your next turn. So what you can even do with a card like this is you can play it, give something like your Bonsai evasive until the start of your next turn. That guarantees, well, not guarantees, but gives you a high likelihood that you can quest for 4 with this card, but before it gets taken out, before it's challenged and taken out, I should say. So yeah, very interesting list. I do think that these lists are still very fragile though, because Amber Steel is still very prevalent, and Storm does a lot of work into Emerald Amethyst. But Artabax obviously a very fantastic player, so congratulations to him. We see Red Blue again coming second place, so just barely not getting over the line. 2 Shark again, 3 Medusa, 3 Scar. How many uninkables is this person on? 18 and a 63 card deck. Okay, so a little high, but 63 cards. Again on the one Stone Dragon, 3 Fishbone. How many characters? 27, so less than 30. less than 50% of the deck. On the 2 Vitality, 4 How Far I'll Go. Wow, and 1 Dig a Little Deeper still. Only 1 Ice Block, but no big Sisu. So that's why they're not, they're not banking on the big Sisu clear. Are they on 4 B preps? Yeah, 4 B preps. If you're not on big Sisu, you're on B preps for sure. Like more copies of this, maxing out. 3 Maleficent Dragon, so it seems like a lot of the red-blue lists are opting to go back here, and it makes sense because you have ramp with the How Far I'll Go, the Tipo, the Azurite Sea, and then the items here. So interesting list. We'll just take a look at the top 4. Another Amethyst Steel. This one is a Jafar list. Okay, with 3 copies of the Lamp, Whole New World, the Tinkerbell Shift Line now, which again helps you, gives you another viable option for a Whole New Worlding, which is quite interesting. Also on the Mickey, which I find interesting. I mean, how many uninkables do you play? 11? I wonder if it's just better playing the Jim Hawkins. I think the Jim Hawkins is better. I mean, I know the shift target is not inkable, or the shift card is not inkable, the target is. But yeah, you got a lot of gas here, right? You got Robin Hood, like look at, oh my gosh, you got, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I play Dreadnought here, but I guess you do because of the lamp. You have like more Jafar targets. 4 Genie, no rabbits, no fox, which is absolutely crazy to me. But I guess it is kind of counterproductive. You don't want to be bouncing your stuff back, right? Because you want to be wheeling your hand away. You want to be playing out your hand. So very interesting list. Yeah, really cool to see these things in the meta. No Calhoun, by the way, which is very interesting. And we got another Amethyst. So it seems like in Europe, Amethyst Emerald is played. Very different than Artabax's list because you see the Fred already included here. Lyle, still on the high number of craps. 3 Ursula, no Clarabelles, 1 Chromacon, 2 Library, triple Genie, and 4 Rabbits. So a lot of card draw here, 4 Friends. Very interesting to see. So yeah, those are the first couple of events. There were a few more that were published today. We have a Calhoun deck winning, or no, it's not winning, top 4, sorry, of a $1,500 constructed. So we've seen Calhoun now in Amber Steel and now in, I do think it fits best in Amethyst Steel. A lot of 1-drops, a lot, and then a good number of 2-drops. What are they called this? Calhoun LeFou. So they're playing this LeFou, which during your turn you may play this character for free if an opposing character was banished this turn. So banish with Calhoun, bring out the LeFou for free, extra bodies, okay. 2 Lose the Way. We already talked about this card, even using it in Ruby Amethyst. I think this card is actually really good. So yeah, very interesting to see there. 4 Strength, 4 Library, capping out at 4 cost characters. So we're seeing, if you're not on Sapphire Control, you're just an aggro deck at this point, I think. Very, very, very few mid-range decks. We've got a couple of Steel Fossas. What else is worth looking at here? Another Steel Amethyst down here. I'm pointing out these Steel Amethyst lists because I do think, we haven't really seen this pop off too much in the meta. Is this going to be the format for Amethyst Steel? This one, very interesting though. 4 John Silver with a bunch of locations. Makes sense, right? The Amethyst has some of the best locations in the game. Why not capitalize off of it with the John Silver? I mean, these are expensive locations, to be fair. And this card is like very, 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 very strong when you got like 2 or more locations in play. Questing for 3 and then having like resist 2, very, very difficult to deal with for a card that only costs 3. Yeah, very, and then can challenge into stuff and just not even worry about getting banished. So interesting card. It's Ryan Miles. This is a Yu-Gi-Oh player, a former Yu-Gi-Oh player, I think. So interesting to see them. Well, top 4. What else is it worth? 17 players on this one. Probably not too relevant for the sample size. Small, small, small. Let's take a look at this one as our last list. Oh, finally, Red Blue taking an event. Noi making its way back into the meta. Wow. And the Tadashi, the card that will get you double ink when it's banished. Quest for 2. Your opponent has to answer it, otherwise you're going to ramp up lore very quickly. This card, how many uninkables? 23 for 67 cards. This card, though, I mean, it doesn't really fit blue-red because you don't really care about early game pressure. You're all about top end, right? But I guess this card just helps facilitate. You can close the game out easier in the end game. This card forces ramp which is good for this deck, right? Like your opponent has to deal with this. They can't just let it sit there and quest for 2 the whole time, which means you're going to get a double ramp. I unfortunately missed getting some foils at a relatively good price, and I don't want to pay the new price for them. But no one's really using this. This is the first list I've seen them in, so maybe it'll come back down. But I do think it's a very good card. Red-blue, again, on the Shark, so no surprise there. We've got Scar, Big Sisu. Yeah, I mean, 67 cards. You're fitting everything in this deck. There's no way you're not playing Azurite Sea and you're playing 1 jump ahead still. That's crazy. Wow, and they won. So, you know, props to them. 4 prepare your bot. Okay, so prepare your bot, ready up, dime again, win the game in 1 turn. You know, it's just basically an OTK deck. But then, you know, why are you playing the Tadashi? I mean, I guess it gets you closer, right? You drop Tamatoa and you're like dime it for 5 or 6, ready your bot, prepare your bot, dime it for 5 or 6 again, right? Combined with what I got in the early game, win the game. Makes sense, but ready chosen red. You don't play any robots. Ready chosen robot character. Nope. So you're just readying items. You know, I guess ready up. Yeah, I guess, you know, a lot of these items can be readied up to be used again, which is nice. So prepare your bot does have some utility. It's just crazy to me that you don't play Azurite Sea and you're on 67 cards. That is wild. But they won, so congrats to them. What did they beat in the finals? Another Emerald Steel. Not Emerald Steel, geez. Amethyst Steel. Jafar list. These Jafar lists, man, where are they coming from? What is happening? 4 Lamp and 4 Gathering Knowledge. How many Uninkables is this person on? 14. Okay, that's still reasonable. Oh, they're on. Okay, it's a Blue Fairy Jafar list. Yeah, you know. Oh, Zephyr, why did you have to leave us? You know. Whenever I think of Jafar Wheel, I just remember Zephyr going undefeated in that Pixelborn tournament. Oh, man. Back when everyone thought, you know, everyone was hyped on Jafar, and then everyone was like, oh, it's just a gimmick, and then Zephyr went like 8-0. Back in what, set 3, right, when it came out, I believe. We got a Steel Song list here. So Steel Song still doing work, adding in the new Lilo. Back on Gaston's here. Robin Hood, 2 copies of Cinderella. Okay. And nothing really changing with the song package. Just decks that people know how to play and decks that are proven to be good over time. So that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. A very interesting first weekend look at the meta for Azurite Sea. Let's see how it continues to develop. If you like this video, make sure you drop a like. Thank you again for watching. Quantum is out.